Okay, so this is a video of me explaining what happens when K2 is conjunct Mercury in your birth chart. I took a bunch of notes of this on my phone, so if you see me looking at my phone throughout this video, that is why. I don't want to miss nothing. So let's briefly go over what is K2. K2 is a significator of moksha. You know, moksha is like liberation, freedom from the material things that keep us binded to this world, which is the exact opposite of Rahu, which is the things that you haven't experienced, that you don't have enough experience in, that it wants you to go. You see, Rahu is like desires, and Ketu wants to help you be freed from your desires. You know, Ketu is in your chart is an accumulation and representation of your past life experiences. So if Ketu being in if your houses, it shows that you have acquired a lot of experience in this area of your past lives. And because you have a lot of experience within this particular area, you might not desire to do the things in relation to that house. Or you might just be very good at it, but you still might not have the desire to really do it. Depending, you know, on your chart in general. I'm just speaking very general. And the deity that's associated with Ketu, the shadow planet, the Graha, the shadow Graha, the south node, is Ganesha. Ganesha is stated to be the deity that is closely associated with Ketu. And Ganesha is known as the presiding deity over astrology. So a well-placed Ketu can make someone very, well, a well-placed Rahu or Ketu can make someone very interested in mysticism and very great when it comes to astrology and tarot and all that good stuff. What else can I say about Ketu? Ketu is a headless being. It just has a body with no head. So therefore, Ketu thinks irrationally. It doesn't do things and move about in a practical, logical, worldly, sound manner. And that is really pretty much it in a nutshell of what Ketu is, very briefly. So what is Mercury? Which will, I don't know. I can say a lot about Mercury. I might make my own video breaking down the planets in general. I can make like an hour video on Mercury. But anyway, Mercury is a planet that is, you know, associated with our logical, practical intelligence. It rules the signs Gemini and Virgo, which originally rules third and sixth house. Mercury is our written communication. Mercury is Mercury is like an eternal student. Mercury is like a copycat, in a sense. And what else can I say about Mercury? Mercury is associated with mimicry, and a well-placed Mercury might make you a good actor. I said that because I always heard KRS Astrology said that, but now I broke it down and got my own answer as to why he might have said something like that. So check this out. Mercury rules the third house in the birth chart. The third house is associated with skills with hands. And Mercury also rules the nervous system. And Mercury rules communication. Don't you think to maybe be a good actor or to be a good actor or comedian, you need to be able to talk a certain way and walk a certain way, behave a certain way. So therefore Mercury can represent, you know, mimicry. Mercury is like your ability. For one, it's like you using your intelligence to be able to solve the problems of the day-to-day world, which is why Mercury rules the sixth house and is exalted in Virgo, because the sixth house is the battles and obstacles we deal with on a day-to-day basis. And you got to use your logical, practical intelligence to deal with these obstacles that we feel they deal with on a day-to-day basis. Paying your bills, taking care of your children, your car, all that stuff. You gotta have the logical, practical intelligence to deal with the obstacles that life throws at you. And Mercury What else can I say about Mercury? See, this is why, yeah, back to me saying that Mercury is a copycat. Mercury isn't like Jupiter. Jupiter is really like this professor. Jupiter is really like this guru, this master. But Mercury isn't really like a master or something. It's like a jack of all trades and master of none type of planet. It just, the energy and qualities of Mercury is like, it just absorbs book knowledge, or it quickly copies and absorbs knowledge that it has obtained from like either books or from what other people have said. Because remember, Mercury, it has the energy of like a copycat. It can copy and mimic people and things. So the type of intelligence that most people use is like their mercurial intelligence. The things that they know and possess are from things that they got from out of a book or from what other people have told them. But they don't really have the knowledge to maybe, you know, tell you something that wasn't already instilled in them. I'm gonna give you a better example. So let's maybe, like, if you look up saints and sages and spiritual gurus and spiritual figures, or people and stuff, like, some of them will say that they are not really that book smart. Like Sadhguru, I looked at some of his videos before on YouTube. I use him as an example a lot because he's a big famous one. I looked at some of his videos and he said that he has admitted that he's not really all that versed when it comes to maybe some books and culture and stuff that he should probably be expected to know. He wasn't the most, you know, book smart person. But yet he writes books himself. And he gives lectures to a bunch of people. Yes, he doesn't have maybe the traditional recreational book smarts like Mercury, like a mercurial person might have. His wisdom is more so Jupiterian. His wisdom is more so divine. It's like you can speak to him and you can't talk him into a corner. He has the answer for damn near everything. He has the answer for damn near everything that you throw at him. Because his wisdom isn't coming out of a book. It isn't coming out of something that just someone told them. Their intelligence is more so divine. They have more so of a divine, broad, universal view of everything. So they sort of see everything and they're attached to nothing. That's like very Jupiterian. Versus a mercurial person, they can be very intelligent. They can have a bunch of degrees, learn this, learn that, but they might be able to talk you into a corner. Like if you was to go to someone, like this is a real clear distinction of Mercury and Jupiter. Let's say you speak to somebody who works in the medical field, a doctor or whatever, and you ask them if there's a cure for cancer. They'll probably tell you, no, there is no cure for cancer. And there's no cure for the coronavirus or something. Our best bet is this vaccine, or our best bet is to do this. And then you go to some spiritual person, you know, someone who might not possess so many things materialistically, but they're very spiritual and they give great advice and wisdom. And you ask them for maybe some medical advice, or you ask them what do they think about the coronavirus, or what they think about cancer. And the spiritual person might say something like, well, all you need to do is just change your diet when it comes to cancer, or maybe you need to start drinking this herb or taking this herb or vitamin. And they might say something similar in regards to the coronavirus. And you tell the average Joe this, they might laugh at you, tell you shut up, you stupid, you don't know what you're talking about. You need to stick to what you're doing. You are in no way, shape, or form fit to give medical advice. And these things happen. Because I seen a video of Deepak Chopra, and I seen a video of Deepak Chopra and Sadhguru on the internet, and I believe they was talking about the coronavirus. And there was a bunch of hate comments underneath the video talking about that they do not know what they're talking about, and for them to be on such a high platform is very negligent of them to use their influence to spit out such misinformation. And that's sort of the difference between Jupiter and Mercury. Jupiter's wisdom is more so divine and can't be found and confined to book knowledge and to what other people tell them. Their knowledge might not necessarily be understood. And they also do not have to proclaim that they are the best at what they do. They don't have to say that I know the answer to everything. It's like their work speaks for themselves. You speak to them, you can't talk them into a corner, they got an answer for everything, or they just know. Versus the Mercurial person, they can be very intelligent, they can be sharp as a whip, but they might admit, I don't know the answer to this. Or they might get, stuck in a corner if you get them into a debate about a certain subject. Or they just believe everything that they just read and stuff, They can't really think outside themselves. Mercury, let me look at my notes for a quick second. Yeah. Mercury tries to find the answers, while Jupiter already possesses the answer. Another reason why I said that? Because like I said, Mercury rules the 6th house, which is associated with the problems that we deal with on an everyday basis. So Mercury is using his intelligence to solve problems. But Jupiter rules the 9th and 12th house. But my main focus is on the 9th house, which is Jupiter's, which is the home of Jupiter's mutual cone sign, Sagittarius. And Jupiter, the 9th house, is associated with like a PhD and a professor and a master. So Jupiter is like the professor, the master. It has the answer for everything. While Mercury is more so like a student, an eternal student who is constantly learning, constantly moving, trying to find the answers for everything. It knows a lot, but it isn't the master of none. Just like me, I'm a Mercurial person. Or a lot of people who you might really look up to and put on a high platform, they might be very Mercurial people. Like KRS Astrology, for example. He doesn't like to be referred to as a guru or a master. He doesn't consider himself very Jupiterian. He considers himself to be sort of like a Mercurial person. And that's because he doesn't feel as though that he can give like divine blessings to people. He's just very book smart, and he just practices things that he learned from other astrologers and stuff. One more example of my distinction of Mercury and Jupiter, and then I'll go back to the Ketu Mercury conjunction. But me telling you this is very important because it will help you clarify. It'll help clarify and help you understand even more what happens when Mercury and Ketu comes together in a conjunction. So there's a method to my madness. 2 more examples, I guess. If you've read Autobiography of a Yogi with Sri Yukteswar, a guru of Yogananda, he was a guru, a spiritual person who was able to bestow blessings upon somebody. He was able to bestow blessings upon people and heal them and make predictions and stuff like that. He was somewhat of a real divine figure and stuff. And I was about to use Buddha, Gautama Buddha, as an example of a Jupiterian person, but I'm gonna scratch that out because I'm gonna fuck myself up for when I make my Mercury video, because Mercury is known as Buddha, and so it makes you think, why is Mercury associated with Buddha? But yeah, I'm gonna scratch that out. I don't want to have to re-edit and do this video. So let's get back to Mercury conjunct Ketu. So when Ketu comes in conjunction with a planet in general, it shows that you already have experience with the things in association with that planet due to a past life experience. You already mastered or have a lot of experience with that planet. So therefore, in this lifetime, you're going to express the qualities of that planet in a different way, form, and manner. Or matter, whatever. So one thing you can see with Mercury in a Ketu conjunction is that one could be a great astrologer. For one, because I told you how Ketu is associated with Ganesha, who is the presiding deity over astrology. And 2, because Mercury is is naturally sort of very analytical and practical and logical. So when you're looking at a chart, you need a mixture of Jupiter and Mercury. You need some occult, divinity and intuition, and you need a sharp mind to be able to connect the dots and all these different techniques and methods and switching the lugna around when you're looking at a birth chart. So you need that sharp mercurial mind to maybe quickly break down a chart and understand the foundations of it, to be able to properly communicate the things that you're reading in a chart, you know, because Mercury is communication. So you need a good chart. A good Mercury could make you be a great communicator, great at quickly breaking down and analyzing a chart. So Mercury conjunct Ketu can be good for someone who is great at astrology. And since Mercury represents our practical, logical intelligence, what the Ketu is going to do, it's going to be like, okay, I already know that I'm great at 1 + 1, 2 + 2, algebra, and I know I'm good at all the regular shit that people use their Mercury for. But I want to do something else. I want to do something different. So you know what? I am going to make this person maybe struggle when it comes to how they might normally use their mercurial intelligence, and I will force them to maybe use their intelligence for something abstract, for something different, for something creative. And because of this, people with a Mercury Ketu conjunction, they might have speech impediments. They might be someone who, they might have speech impediments, or maybe some nervous disorder with some nerve disorder or something with a Ketu conjunct Mercury. And their intelligence is sort of warped. Their intelligence is sort of abstract. They gotta use their intelligence. Might be real great when it comes to things outside of the norms. And I can't really give you no example except for occult things, but their normal logical intelligence might be warped and altered, or the way that they might come to the answer and conclusion of things logically and intellectually might be different. I know that the great astrologer K.N. Rao, he is someone who has a Mercury conjunct, his Mercury is conjunct Ketu in his birth chart, and he's like known and considered to be like one of the best Vedic astrologers, and his Mercury is conjunct Ketu. Another thing that Mercury conjunct Ketu can do is that it can make you real research oriented. And the reason I say that it can make you real research oriented is because Ketu is your past life experiences. It's things of the past. And Mercury is your ability to quickly solve problems and come up with solutions and answers. And Mercury, with this conjunction, like I said, can just make you research oriented. You could just want to dig deep and learn things of a past or of a certain genre. Like, all this depends on the house that Mercury and Ketu are in and the sign that they're in. But it can make you real research oriented to want to learn ancient and historical things. I've also heard Kapil say, KRS say that Mercury conjunct Ketu. Oh no, yeah. He says that Ketu is like a karaka or a significator of like languages. And I'm reading, at least in Gemini astrology, and I'm reading currently as I'm making this video, at the moment in time that I'm recording this video, I'm reading the Gemini Sutras. I'm not done yet because I just started it, but I'm curious to see if that is sort of mentioned in the book or if it's something that he got from Mark Boney. But anyway, with this conjunction of Mercury conjunct Ketu, I believe that someone could be real interested in learning ancient knowledge. Well, not ancient knowledge, ancient languages. Or they might pick up another language easily. And this would be easy to say, to figure out why I would say such a thing, besides just that KRS thing. Mercury is communication. Mercury is communication. And Ketu is past life things. Ketu is stated to have existed since the beginning. Rahu and Ketu are stated to have existed since like the beginning of like time, or the existence of everything and shit. So Ketu is very intelligent, and Ketu is the past life experiences. Mercury is intelligent. Mercury is communications. You might be very naturally skilled and gifted at learning another language or speaking other languages, reading other languages, foreign languages like Sanskrit, or if you're or Braille like a blind person, or maybe sign language because Mercury is hands. So you might have a great way of learning or communicating in an ancient, rare, obscured manner that isn't the regular way that people speak, like me and you. In a dramatic sense, you could be like someone like Stephen Hawking, a person who speaks, who's confined to a wheelchair and like has a computer or whatever speak for them, you know. But that's one of the things you can see with a Mercury Ketu conjunction. Let me make sure I'm not missing nothing else. That's essentially short and simple. All I can think of off the top of my head when it comes to Mercury conjunct Ketu. It's sort of pretty straightforward. I can only get deeper if I know what sign this Mercury and Ketu is in. And the impact and intensity of this conjunction will be determined based upon how many degrees that, how close is the conjunction. It's the other thing that would determine how impactful this would be. And then looking at the dispositor of where Ketu is. But a few quick things that's on the top of my head while it's on my mind, even though I'd like to get even deeper and drawn out in a separate video one day about Mercury being a copycat. We gotta remember, in Vedic mythology, Mercury is the son of Moon, the moon spirit. And when it comes to assessing Mercury and the moon in a birth chart, they really get their qualities of who they are and what they'll do by sign placement and what's aspect of them. Because these are sort of very blank planets or grahas. You know, the moon reflects the light of the sun, and the moon stays in the sun for like 2.5 days. And so therefore the moon really gets its quality of who it is from other people. And Mercury is the offspring of Moon. And if you actually look up photos of the moon, I mean, if you actually look up photos of the planet Mercury in some images, it looks pretty similar and identical to the moon. So it's funny how that mythological lore sort of plays out in the real world, because they look very similar in some images. So if Mercury, and also, that's another thing, Mercury, mythologically, after he was born, his stepfather became Jupiter. I don't feel like telling the whole every detail of the mythological story, but his stepfather was Jupiter. And I believe Jupiter ended up cursing Mercury to be a eunuch, to be like sexually confused, or have two sexual genitals, one of a man, one of a woman. And I believe Mercury ends up running away from home, from his stepfather and his biological mother. So Mercury, in a sense, at least for part of its life, from the little bit of mythological lore I know, is sort of like a parentless child. And Mercury does not get along when it comes to the relationship with Mercury and other planets. Mercury does not get along, or does not like Jupiter, and it does not like Moon. Which makes sense for why Mercury is debilitated in Pisces. But Mercury doesn't like the sign, doesn't like the planet Jupiter and Moon. But think about it like this: Mercury, for at least for a part of the knowledge that I do know, to an extent, was like a parentless child. Your parents are the people who are supposed to give you guidance and direction in your life early on. So Mercury early on has to think for itself. Imagine yourself as a person who does not have parents. You have to think for yourself. You got to determine what's right or wrong from what you see from the world, from what you see from other people. So just from that little bit of the story that I do know mythologically about Mercury, we see that early on, it has to copy other people. It has to learn from other people because it doesn't have no one to. It doesn't have no parents or figures to guide itself. Mercury's qualities and traits are heavily influenced by planets, by planetary aspects and sign aspects. Unlike some of the other planets like Sun and Mars and Saturn and Jupiter. Of course, sign placements and aspects will greatly determine what they'll do, but you can sort of tell or talk about a whole lot about what those other planets might do in general versus Moon and the shadow planets, Rahu and Ketu and Mercury. Those are more so, I can only say this much because I need to know the sign. Those are those type of planets. So Mercury is just very, copycat-ish. And then third from the third, 3 places from the third house in your chart, it's the 5th house. The 5th house is associated with education. It's associated with children. It's associated with learning. 3, 4, 5. 3rd from the 3rd is the 5th. Mercury originally rules the 3rd house and the 6th house. And Mercury is a karaka of learning. And Mercury, in a sense, is like the student of, it's like the child of Jupiter. Jupiter originally rules the 9th house. 9 places from the 9th house is the 5th house. So Jupiter and Mercury, in a sense, they're both like a karaka, a significator of the 5th house. And I don't want to get y'all too lost and confused because I know I'm going a little bit all over the place. Because I'm just talking off the top of my head because stuff just be coming to me when I get on a roll. But there you go. I'm gonna just cut it short. I know this video isn't short. I'm just making sure I'm not missing nothing because I got everything I wanted to say in my notes. But that is what happens when Ketu conjuncts Mercury. I just want to make sure I'm not missing nothing. But you just have a great interest in wanting to research and learn ancient topics. Great speaker when it comes to, great at learning or picking up ancient old languages, potentially. Could be very great at astrology. Your intelligence would be used for obscured, unusual, unconventional, unorthodox things. You can have a speech impediment. You can have a nerve disorder. Maybe issues with your hands, because Mercury also represents hands. You might communicate differently if I didn't say that already, but that's essentially it. Mercury is an eternal student, and Ketu conjunct Mercury could make this even more so the case. Ultimately, you got karma to pay. You have karma when it comes to the things that Ketu's conjunct. So it shows that you already dealt for all the things that Mercury is associated with. And in this lifetime, you will express the qualities that Mercury is associated with in a different, unique way, in a foreign way. Because Rahu and Ketu represent foreign things. I don't want to list all the other possible significators of Mercury because I don't remember them off the top of my head. And I don't want to tell you all the wrong things. So I'm going to stop rambling. I hope this video helps you understand what happens when Mercury conjuncts Ketu to an extent, because I'll need sign placement and house placement to give you even more details. But see you when I make my next video.